I'm 34 years old, and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong for refusing to talk to my ex-girlfriend Sarah, who is 29. There's a lot of history here, and I will explain it fully. In mid-2022, I met Sarah at work, and we hit it off right away. We started dating shortly after, but she ended our relationship early due to a small argument, and to make matters worse, she caused a commotion in front of everyone at work. I was sad, but at first, I realized I still had feelings for her, and seeing her every day was too difficult, so I decided to quit and look for a new job. Over the coming months, we started talking again, but despite my feelings for her, I couldn't bring myself to consider getting back together. I was saddened by what she had done, and after a few months, she told me that she regretted ending our relationship over something so trivial. She said that doing it in front of everyone was terrible, and she had been thinking about it ever since. I asked her if she wanted to give our relationship another chance because I thought her apologies were sincere, and she agreed. By early 2023, we were formally reunited, and everything was going well. We talked about getting married and building a future together, which made me feel ready to take the next step. I decided to surprise her with a proposal, and I started working extra hours to pay for a house so we could get married. Shortly after, she asked for a break, and I was shocked when she refused to explain. She had been talking nonstop about a new person at her employment, but then she stopped mentioning him completely, which made me suspicious, perplexed, and hurt. I contacted one of my close friends, Emily, not her real name, who, together with her partner, continued to work at the same company as Sarah. I complained to Emily about what was going on and asked if she knew anything. She replied she didn't because she worked in a different department, but she promised to check around. Emily followed up with me a few days later. She told me Sarah had been feeling distant from me lately, especially since I was working longer hours and not getting out as often. Emily stated that some of Sarah's co-workers had encouraged her to take a break, believing I wasn't treating her well and wasn't as involved in the relationship. On top of that, they were attempting to link her with a new guy at work, claiming they'd be a better match. I told Emily about my plans to propose and purchase a home for Sarah and me. That was why I had been working so much. I wanted to surprise her with something large. Sarah called me after about 2 weeks and suggested we meet. I agreed, but I made it clear that I needed an explanation for why she wanted a break before we could talk about anything else. She mentioned how detached I had appeared, adding it made her feel like I wasn't as invested in the relationship anymore. I told her that if she had just spoken with me about it, she would have realized there was a reason for my actions, but it didn't matter anymore. She then mentioned the new guy at her employment. I said his name before she could, and she was astonished, wondering how I knew. I assured her that I was not in India. I noted how she abruptly stopped talking about him. After constantly bringing him up, she said she'd never cheated on me. I said that hunting for someone better at the first hint of difficulties may be considered cheating by some at that point. I informed her I did not want to hear anything else she had to say. It didn't matter if she wanted to reconcile. I was ending my relationship with her regardless. The split left me extremely hurt. I couldn't bear being in the same town, so I requested my employer for a move and used the money I'd saved for the project to start over in a new city. While speaking with Emily, the friend I had previously vented to, she apologized to me. She stated that she had made a mistake by informing Sarah about my plans to propose and purchase a home. Emily stated Sarah burst into tears after hearing that Emily's cancer was welcome, but it did not influence the outcome. By mid-December last year, I had returned to my hometown to celebrate Christmas and New Year's with my family. Some friends wanted to throw a party to bring everyone together because many of us, including myself, had moved away and were only returning for the holidays. Sarah also received an invitation. We barely spoke that night, just a short hi in passing. I glanced at her and noticed her smiling while speaking with a group of women. That smile recalled so many memories. I realized that seeing her smile made me feel exactly the same way I felt the first time I saw it. I thought, how screwed up am I that I still feel this way despite those residual emotions? Later that evening, one of my friends told me that Sarah's relationship with the person at work had only lasted a few months after the holidays. I had planned to return to the city where I currently reside after my vacation ended on January 6th. So I planned to leave on Friday so that I'd have Saturday to clean up at home and get ready for the week ahead, and Sunday to relax before going back to work. Before I left, one of my friends from home called me and said he had a favor to request on behalf of someone else, and I could already feel sick. He then told me it was Sarah, moving to the city where I lived to work for a relative's company, and she needed a ride. He asked if I could take her. I didn't think about it before saying no. The thought of being locked in a car with her for hours was too much to take. It would have been excruciatingly embarrassing, just like the party, and I wasn't prepared to put myself through it. He insisted that Sarah and I talk, but I was having none of it. I returned home, and last week I went for a run. When I stopped at street to relax briefly at a park, I heard a familiar voice say hi. It was Sarah. She attempted to start a conversation by asking how I was and emphasizing that we didn't get to converse during the party, but I cut her off, stating I would rather not speak with her. She asked me not to be like that and that we should have a chat, but I declined. Furthermore, she questioned how I could still dislike her after over a year and everything we've been through, but I told her it wasn't resentment. I was quite truthful. I explained that thinking about her, talking about her, or even seeing her still hurts a lot, which is why I couldn't talk to her. She stated that this was precisely why we needed to communicate. I didn't understand the point, so I simply walked away. Sarah has tried to approach me twice since then, and both times I have turned her down. Some of my pals believe I'm being overly harsh and should talk to her for closure. Others argue that torturing her for the rest of her life is unacceptable, but that is not the point of this. I have no anger or ill thoughts against her anymore. I admit that I share some of the blame, but it still stings. Furthermore, I can't talk to her because it's like reopening an old wound that has never completely healed. So why are you refusing to talk to her? After reading the comments, the original poster thanked everyone for their advice. The OP simply wants to explain things better. The OP explained that their friends were not contacting or emailing them, telling them to talk to Sarah. It was simply the perspective of some of them when the matter was raised. Update, February 2nd, 2025. Hello everyone. I wanted to provide another update and appreciate everyone for their thoughts. I read over each comment, and while I didn't react to everyone, it was only because I didn't have anything to say. I'm grateful to everyone who expressed their opinions. It's been quite helpful. After reading everything and thinking about it, I've chosen to adhere to my choice not to speak to Sarah. I neglected to include it in my original post, but I did notify a few people that I blocked her everywhere. After we broke up for the second time over the last 2 days, it appears that her insistence has backfired. Some of our shared acquaintances, including those who first suggested I talk to her, have become tired of her continuous attempts to reach me. They appear to have turned against her as a result of this. Emily, the friend I was venting to at the time, posted about stalkers on social media. 3 days ago she did. Not named Sarah, but many people understood what she meant. I've also seen a few comments on my initial post that suggest Sarah was stalking me. Her job in the same city, as well as her serendipitous arrival in the park, supports this theory. For what it's worth, I know her uncle owns a company here, so that could be the real reason she moved, but that's not my concern, and I'm not going to investigate it. Things have been quieter. Friends have abandoned the subject, and Sarah hasn't attempted to contact them again. That was until yesterday. I watched the UFC event with some coworkers. When it ended, I was on my way to my car when my phone rang. A mutual friend called. She stated she had spoken with Sarah and asked if she could relay a message. I sighed and urged her to get it done quickly. Sarah just stated that she knows why I don't want to talk to her. She vowed she wouldn't contact us again, but she still believes we should communicate. She said the door was open if I ever wanted to discuss it. I told my buddy I didn't have a message to return and begged her not to bring Sarah up again in our chats. If what Sarah mentioned is correct, it is a relief, booting not holding my breath, and I wouldn't be shocked if she tried something different. Maybe she thinks that giving me space will force me to approach her, but that chapter of my life is over. I just want to focus on myself, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's that I should get to know people better before committing to a relation. I've also been thinking about how loosely I use the term friend, which is another aspect of my life that I need to reevaluate. Some of the people I've called friends have demonstrated that they don't have my best interests at heart. A couple of people mentioned therapy in the comments, and I'll admit that I've considered it for now, but if I don't feel better after a while, I'll look into it further. Thank you to everyone who took the time to comment. Your counsel has been very helpful in resolving everything. Update to February 16, 2025. Sarah has been missing for a few weeks, and no one has brought her up in conversation, which is a good thing. Then last Tuesday, February 11th, I got a direct message from Sarah's mother, who said she wanted to apologize for her daughter's behavior and asked me to call her. I've always had a good relationship with Sarah's parents. Even during both breakups, they were respectful and never went too far. I didn't want to talk about Sarah anymore, but I also didn't want to avoid her mother. So after giving it some thought, I decided to call her. However, if she tried to get me to talk to Sarah or anything, I would gently end the call. When she answered, she put me on speaker so Sarah's father could join us, and I almost expected to hear Sarah's voice. But fortunately, the conversation was excellent. They started by apologizing for Sarah's recent actions, and I quickly told them there was nothing to. I thanked her parents and told them how much I admired and respected them. I can now say with certainty that this is over because Sarah would never violate her parents' confidence. Thank you all for your advice. It meant a lot. Moving on to the next story 2. I learned that my stepdaughter had been tricked by her biological father into investing her tuition money in a phony startup project. Sarah vowed that she would stay away from me and seek therapy after we spoke for a long time. They also claimed that they had no idea what was going on until recently when they called Sarah and spoke with her. I didn't say anything. I had just packed my suitcases this morning. When I walked into our living room, the house was unusually quiet, but that wasn't all. I looked around the room, trying to figure out what was wrong, and then I noticed that all of our family photos looked different. I walked closer to the giant frame above the fireplace, which was from our trip to Yellowstone last year. The photo was there, but I wasn't. Every picture of me had been painstakingly erased, leaving embarrassing gaps in family memories from the previous 3 years. I was standing there, my coffee cup getting cold, when I heard Stella's upstairs door softly close. Her footsteps stopped at the top of the stairs, clearly sensing that I was awake, and after a brief pause, she walked down the stairs with her phone in hand, deliberately avoiding eye contact. I said in a calm tone as I made my way to the kitchen in the morning, and the silence that followed was thick with intention. I had been in Stella's life for 3 years, which is how long I had gradually built trust through movie nights, help with math homework, and trying to be present without going too far. At the age of 16, she started to drift away, and I expected typical teenage rebellion. But this seemed different. It started last week when I offered to help her with her chemistry project. She had been struggling with the subject, and I assumed it didn't matter. I had heard variations of that before, but something about her tone was different, sharp and purposeful. My wife Delilah was in the kitchen and must have heard, but she didn't say anything. That quiet felt like taking sides. The tension increased over the course of a week. I was expecting support mediation, but Delilah put down her fork and calmly murmured, "Maybe we'd all be better off if you did." The words hung in the air like smoke for 3 years. Last night, Stella was texting during supper, which goes against our customary norms. "She's just being a teenager, Thomas. Don't make it about you." The day Stella first laughed at one of my dad's jokes, the night she called me in tears after her first boyfriend broke up with her, and Delilah's proud smile when she asked me, not her mother, to help her choose her prom outfit. I got up slowly, finished my food, and said, "Okay," what Stella asked, but something flickered in her eyes. Uncertainty, perhaps, if that's how you both feel okay. I walked upstairs to our bedroom and took out my old duffel bag. I could hear them whispering downstairs, but no one came up while I gathered enough clothes for a few days. I noticed that my hands weren't shaking, and I felt oddly at ease. Stella had already left, probably to her room when I arrived, and Delilah was standing at the kitchen doorway with her arms crossed. "So you're just leaving?" "That's your solution," I replied, searching for my wallet and keys, and I'm respecting that she didn't pause pride, wrath, or something else to stop her from saying what she wanted to say. So I picked up my purse and said, "I'll be at Ryan's. I'll figure out something more permanent soon." I drove to Ryan's apartment alone when Stella said those things, and he looked at me and set up his guest room right away. That's the kind of friend he is. This morning, I turned off my phone and took a sleeping pill from my emergency travel box, and when I finally turned it on, I noticed that it was full of notifications minus 13 missed calls, 8 from Delilah, 3 from Stella, and 2 from Quinn, my sister, 27 text messages and 4 voicemails, all of which I haven't listened to yet. I'm sitting in Ryan's guest room, watching the morning traffic below, thinking about that. I would like to thank everyone who left positive comments on my previous post. I did not expect such a large response to answer the most common question. Yes, I have read the messages. No, I have not responded to any of them yet. And yes, I am still at Ryan's. This morning started like the others, with me pretending to focus on work while glancing at my phone, debating whether or not to break the stillness. Then Ryan dropped a bomb during breakfast. "Miles is back in town," he announced, sliding as I scrolled through my messages again after seeing a picture of Stella's biological father on Facebook. 2 weeks ago, the same Miles, who hasn't paid child support for 3 years and who had missed Stella's last 4 birthdays, posted a picture of herself at a local restaurant. Instead of running away from the worry, she said, "Please let us know you're fine." Her most recent message was, "There's something you need to know. It's Stella. Please call." Quinn arrived about lunchtime, ready with coffee, and that non-nonsense expression she gives when she's about to meddle in my affairs. "You look like hell," she said, sliding onto Ryan's couch. "Thanks, sis." She didn't smile. I was curious about how she was meeting Miles for coffee yesterday, but she didn't see me. Quinn watched my reaction closely and said, "You know that look she gets when she's trying not to get too excited about something. It's the same expression Stella had when she was accepted to the summer camp last year, as if she was terrified to believe something good was happening." "Did you know Hume's been messaging her for months?" Quinn asked, promising to make things right this time, and I checked Stella's Instagram, which I don't often do, since her most recent post showed her in Miles' real family time. Her friends' responses were full of harsh emoticons, and Ryan, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke up, remembering what had happened the last time he showed up, when Stella was 13, with big promises, stay for 2 weeks, and then disappeared once more. Della and I spent months rebuilding her trust and telling her that she was enough and deserved more. As if on cue, my phone lit up with a text message from Delilah asking her to move in with him. She's thinking about it, Thomas. I started typing several responses, but I erased them all because I felt like it was a terrible joke. Then came another notification. Stella's most recent Instagram post featured a picture of college brochures strewed across her bed with the headline, "Big change is coming. Occasionally, you have to choose your real path." Miles said those exact words 3 years ago, just before he traveled across the country to follow his true passion and stopped. Returning Stella's calls, Quinn must have noticed something on my face. "What are you thinking?" I glanced at my phone, reading Delilah's message, and then I quietly said, "I'm thinking about the day I married Della. Remember what Stella said in her speech, how sometimes family finds you when you're not looking for it?" Quinn nodded, and now I sighed. Now she's posting about her real family and her real path while Miles plays Father of the Year. He's got her convinced. My phone began to ring, and I came to a stop. Unknown number. "Thomas, this is Miss Anderson from Riverside High. I'm Stella's guidance counselor. I know this is unusual, but I need to speak with you about some concerning changes in Stella's academic plans and recent behavior. Would you be able to come in tomorrow morning?" I consented to the meeting, my thoughts racing. Stella had maintained straight A's since freshman year, anxious to attend a good institution. What might have changed? Quinn and Ryan both looked at me expectantly as I hung up. So Quinn asked, "I think it's time to stop being silent." I picked up my phone and finally opened Stella's voicemail. Her voice was low, unlike her usual assurance. "I know you probably hate me now, and I understand, but I just need to tell you something about why I said those things about Miles." Her voice reminded me of the 13-year-old girl who used to check her mailbox every day in hopes of receiving a letter that never came. "I have a meeting with the guidance counselor tomorrow at 9 o'clock, and thereafter, I think it's time for some honest conversations because sometimes disappearing lets you see things more clearly from a distance." The school's number is still displayed on my screen, and next to it is a text notification from Miles to our family group chat, and I am still a part of a great news big announcement at dinner tomorrow night. I have a feeling I know what the announcement will be, and I won't let history repeats itself. Update 2. I spent the last hour trying to figure out how to write this update. The meeting with Miss Anderson revealed something I had not anticipated, and what happened next. Let me begin at the beginning. I arrived at Riverside High early, and I saw students hurrying to first period. A few of Stella's classmates knew me, and their brief glances and whispers told me that rumors about my absence had already spread. Miss Anderson wasted no time after I sat down, and she explained that she was withdrawing from her advanced placement classes yesterday. She also explained that she was dropping out of the French club and student council. When I asked why she said she was doing this, my chest tightened. Stella fought hard to get into these programs, and she had been relying on extracurricular activities to help her college applications transcripts from 3 different schools in California. She stopped and watched me closely. Then I pulled out my phone and showed her Miles' massive announcement text, which I assumed meant he was starting a new company. She nodded, and I got the same sick feeling I got 3 years ago when Miles convinced Delilah to lend him money for a sure-thing business called Endeavor. We never saw the money again. I left the school and drove straight to our house, where I could see her pacing the kitchen with a phone to her ear. Before I could knock, she hurried to answer the door. He asked her for money, and she quickly replied, "My college fund." He has been filling her head with promises about this tech startup, saying that if she invests now, where is she having coffee with Miles again? Delilah's voice broke. I tried to tell her it's a scam, but she accused me of being jealous that he's finally stepping up. She said that at least he believes in her dreams. I sat down at the kitchen counter, the same place where everything fell apart a week ago. She exhaled, and I wondered if I could keep them apart. She shook her head. "Then you and Stella got into a fight, and she said horrible things, and I panicked, siding with her because I was afraid that she would go all in for him before I could react." Stella walked in, looking different. She was wearing an expensive jacket that Miles had probably bought her, but her eyes were crimson. She asked, "What are you doing here?" But her voice lacked its usual sharpness. "Are you dropping your AP courses?" she said, avoiding my eyes. "Miles says," I said gently. Something flickered on her face. "He has connections out there. The startup is guaranteed, too, as if the classic car dealership were guaranteed or a food truck franchise." I pulled out my laptop and opened the documents I had spent the morning gathering. I did some research to find out about the 3 ongoing cases from his previous guaranteed investment opportunity. Stella's hands trembled as she grabbed the laptop. With each click and document, the careful facade cracked a little more when she reached the lawsuit filed by his former stepdaughter's grandmother to collect. He said she swallowed hard, that he had changed, and that he wanted to make up for lost time so that we could be a true family if she stopped and looked up at me in a photo album. He said, I needed to prove I was choosing him, that you were the reason he remained away, that you took his place. Oh, sweetie, she said quietly, and I guess I knew, but I desperately wanted to think that she was telling the truth. Miles sent another SMS, and she stared at it for a long time before shutting it off completely. I have to go, she murmured, hurrying up the stairs. I have to go, she said. I have to go, because sometimes the most generous thing you can do is to give her space. I was about to head back to Ryan's when my phone rang with a text from Stella. I messed up everything. Can we talk? I mean talk? Not about distance or money or anything. Do you remember when we used to have ice cream after my dancing classes and you let me run about school drama? I know I don't deserve it, but I'm writing this from my car, which is parked outside our local ice cream shop. It's supposed to be closed, but the owner knows we've been coming here for 3 years, so he's staying open late just for us. Stella just arrived in her mother's car, and she's sitting there, probably gathering the courage to enter. Just like me, sometimes the most difficult conversations start with the smallest gesture. That night in the ice cream shop altered everything. Stella spoke for hours about Miles manipulating her anxieties and guilt, but it was something she said in passing that piqued my interest. Miles had asked Jessica to get her friend's parents to invest in his firm as well. Something clicked. I remembered the lawsuits. I discovered a pattern of targeting families through their children. The rage I'd been hiding now had a purpose. You know, I explained carefully, what he's doing isn't simply ethically wrong. It is illegal. Stella glanced up from her melting ice cream. What do you mean? I described security fraud and unlawful investment techniques. Her eyes widened as she took out her phone and showed me the group conversations where Miles was directly soliciting investments from children. That night, after sending Stella off, I made some phone calls. Quinn has a friend in the SEC. Ryan knew someone in the district attorney's office by morning. I had a plan. Miles didn't see it coming. He was too preoccupied with his Miles was in his element discussing Silicon Valley connections and promised profits at the big announcement dinner, where he intended to convince Stella to give up her education fund. He had also invited the parents of some of her friends, adding to the list of potential targets. I waited for the appetizers to arrive before getting up before we continued. Miles' face changed from confident to confused to terrified in a matter of seconds. Miles was operating multiple fraudulent schemes. It appears that the detectives discovered 7 different fraudulent schemes in 3 jurisdictions. Every time he reconnected with Stella over the years, he would set up new victims. The classic car dealership that cost Ayla her money was part of a larger scam scheme, and the food truck franchise follows the same pattern. The best part was that he had been careless this time, recording everything in emails and texts to Stella. He thought she would never turn against him, so when she forwarded the messages to the investigators, his fate was set. The parents were at the dinner, wearing wires, and every lie, promise, and illegal investment pitch was recorded. He tried to run, knocking over a waiter before running for the door. He took 3 steps before being stopped by security, who led him away. He gave Stella that deceptive puppy dog expression that she had fallen for so many times. This is all a misunderstanding, sweetie, he said. Take my hand. And he just watched you get exactly what you deserve. The aftermath was intense news coverage, victim statements, and more families came forward. The investigators found over $2. The true victory, however, was not seeing Miles arrested, rather, the brief moments that followed. With a hint of her former smile, she said, given the situation, I reapplied to my AP classes. Instead of being angry, the school was understanding and formed a support group for families impacted by similar scams. Last night, Stella asked me for help with her college essays. I have a pretty unique story now, she explained, adding that many people can write about bringing down their biological father's fraudulent empire. Delilah and I are in counseling. There is trust to be restored and wounds to be healed. But it was witnessing her carefully putting my photos back in the family albums and straightening each one that expressed more than words could. Stella came down early this morning for breakfast. She carried an envelope with her. I found this in my room, she explained, passing it across the table. Miles asked me to send it last week. It is investment documentation for his startup. I figured you would want to add it to the evidence file. I stared at the envelope, then at her. Do you want to deliver it to the investigators together? She grinned, the genuine, unrestrained smile I had missed. Can we get ice cream afterwards? Some may argue that the vengeance was excessively severe. Whatever happens, that family is still family. However, a real family does not strive to take your future. A real family will protect you, even if it means shielding you from other relatives. The sentencing date is next month. Stella plans to read a victim impact statement she spent weeks working on. It painstakingly rewrites each word. She requested me to review it yesterday. It needs a good ending, she went on. Something that shows I'm not just his. The way she keeps her head up now and helps other kids spot similar schemes in the college brochures on her desk, rather than the ones that were tried to sell her, makes me think that she has already found that ending. Sometimes moving on means making sure that the past doesn't hurt others, and other times the best form of retribution isn't just seeing someone suffer consequences, it's thriving despite them. Tonight, the three of us are enjoying a family dinner while Stella prepares her well-known spaghetti sauce, which she learned how to make. During the lockdown, while we watched culinary videos together, we talked about both mundane and amazing family-related topics. Thank you for watching. Miles will have plenty of time to think about these things from his jail. If you haven't already, please subscribe and press the bell to receive updates on more startling real-life incidents that are happening in your area.